Are you tired of feeling stuck and fearful in the face of change? Do you yearn to transform your life by embracing new opportunities and break free from resistance? If so, then stick with me as I share with you my 5 personal tips to overcome resistance and embracing change. These are the tips that I used in the last 12 months as I faced huge resistance as I was making massive changes in my life. I know all too well how it can feel to be stuck, and I'd like to share with you how I got through them. But before we get started, be sure, if you're on YouTube, to click the subscribe button and ring that bell so you don't miss any future episodes. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please give us a follow. For the same reason, you won't miss any future episodes. So tip number 1 is actually acknowledge your resistance. Now, this is such a huge step. As that saying, what we resist persists. If we're resisting the resistance, then what happens is we end up stuck in that resistance. We end up staying there for a while. So the first thing we've got to do is actually acknowledge it, because change can be intimidating and it can also be very, very uncomfortable. And that's because we like to stay safe. When things start to change is inevitable. Change is the only thing that's guaranteed in life. They've got the old saying, the only 2 things that are guaranteed are change and taxes. But change, everything's changing. The seasons change, we change, life changes, people around us change. There's nothing that we can do about it. The planet changes. So we've got to embrace this, and it's important to actually recognize this resistance and know that it's okay. It's okay that sometimes we can feel a little bit uncomfortable during this change, and that is completely normal. Sometimes we feel like we're alone, that because things are changing and we're kind of struggling to deal with this, especially as men, we feel like we have to just put on this brave face and push through. And again, if you're a parent, if you're a mum and you've got kids, same sort of thing. Throughout the changes, you have to put on that brave face. But sometimes it's okay just to recognize this resistance. It's okay. It's not a problem. But here's the key thing. This resistance can surface in a number of different ways. Fear, self-doubt, procrastination. Procrastination is a big one for me. When I notice I'm procrastinating, I know there's a little bit of resistance there. I know I'm hesitating. I'm not quite sure why it's that change. A bit unsure of myself. But how about fear or self-doubt? When you start to self-doubt yourself, why is that? It's because things have changed and you're doubting your ability to go through it. Just start to ask yourself, what's changed? Where's this come from? So that resistance to that change can be fear, procrastination, self-doubt. Now, some ways that I've used personally to overcome this is journaling. Journaling is a big one. You hear me talk about it all the time on the full-length episodes, and my guests also talk about that, or on these ones here. Journaling is such a key tool because it allows you to reflect on your thoughts, your feelings, and, key thing, your reactions. It allows you to actually start to notice patterns. How do I behave in the face of fear? How do I behave when I've got self-doubt? How am I behaving? How am I thinking when I'm procrastinating? What is my thought process behind procrastination? And then you'll start to realize that actually it's because it's a little bit scary, that change. And that's where the resistance come in. Change has happened and I'm procrastinating because I'm not quite sure how to bridge the gap between the 2 things. But you start to notice your thought patterns. And then you can also get feedback from your friends. This is something I've had to do as well. Ask your friends, are you noticing that I'm acting a bit differently here? Are you noticing behaviors, attitudes that are indicating I'm resistant to this thing that I've got to do? And they're like, yeah, mate, like you've been saying you can do this thing for 3 weeks and you haven't done it. Or whenever we mention this thing, you get quite angry about it. Or whenever we say, are you looking forward to it? You start to talk about how you know you can't do it. Because sometimes we're not aware of what we're doing. We're not aware of our attitude and behaviors towards that certain thing. But if you've got that trusted friend, again, it could be a partner, it could be your best friend, it could be a work colleague, they'll be able to tell you truthfully, yeah, actually, I can see the resistance and I'm not quite sure what's going on. And then once you've got the information, you can then do something about it. Tip number 2, shift perspectives. Try to see change as an opportunity to grow rather than as a threat. Because that's often what we can do, can't we? We can see this thing, this change, and we're fearful of it. We're like, wow, what if this changes me? What if I can't do it? What if this ruins my life? We always go to the negatives. But actually, if we can just change that and actually feel that uncomfortableness, and with that uncomfortableness, know, I'm feeling uncomfortable because I'm growing. And that's how I've had to see this. Over the last 12 months, as I said, I've had so much change go on, and it's made me feel very, very uncomfortable. I've really had to step up and embrace where I want to go with my life. Again, even doing these videos myself. Normally I've got Mikey, production behind it, editing it. I've had to do it all myself. But it shows that I'm growing. There's that uncomfortableness. How are they going to be received? Are people going to like them? Will I be able to keep it up? All of these things. But for me, it shows growth. And if we can actually just embrace that uncomfortableness and know that this is the gateway to the growth we want, then again, it puts a bit of a nicer spin on it. So just reframe those thoughts. Just change how we look at it. Can we see fear as a gateway to growth? And embrace the possibilities that it can bring. Rather than all the negatives, we're so quick to, what if it fails? What if this goes wrong? How about we just flip that? Well, what if it goes right? What if these videos go down really well? What if I help more people? it puts a nicer spin on it. We can do it for the negatives. It means we can do it for the positives. We just don't really realize that we can do it, so we get stuck in that negative thought pattern again. Tip number 3, take small steps. Big, massive changes could be overwhelming. Massive changes. And you're just thinking, wow. Again, this is where the overwhelm can kick in. And again, the fear, the self-doubt, the procrastination, it's like, I don't even know where to begin. It's such a massive change over there. Where on earth do I begin? So if we can actually chunk these down, if we can chunk these big goals down into smaller little steps, that is when we can make those small little steps towards where we're going. Just think about, when it comes to change, think about redesigning your house. So you've got your house, you're not building a new one, you're redesigning your house. That is a massive, massive task. If you're going to change every single room, you're going to destroy some stuff, build a new kitchen, new living room, all this stuff. It's a massive task. How does it get achieved? One day at a time, one brick at a time, one bit of wallpaper at a time, one lick of paint at a time, one unit removed at a time. That is how it goes. You've got to look at what's the bigger plan. The big plan is this, and that's how you want your house to look. That's how you want your life to look. Okay, let's reverse engineer it. What's the first thing that I need to do today? Just take that little step forward. And that's how it works when it comes to anything. Let's use building a house for an example. The house that you're in right now, or wherever you are, the building you're in right now, one brick at a time. That is how life works. You climb a mountain one step at a time. So rather than allowing ourselves to get caught up in all the big details, can we just look at, right, this is where I'm going. How can I just work it back, reverse engineer it? What can I do today just to move the needle forward? And that's how I approach every day. I call it the win the day mentality. Just every day, can I take one step forward towards that goal? And that's how it builds up over time. And again, that's something I've done before. For me, it's something it means that every single day, I know that I've done something that's moved me closer to my goal. Because sometimes you may get this as well, I get really stuck in my own head that I haven't done enough. But if I then look back at my diary, I'm like, no, actually, I said I was going to do all these things today. Even just 3 or 4 things, and I've ticked them all off, then I know I've moved my life forward. And that, again, just settles me. Because I don't like staying stagnant, and I can get in my own head. But when you've got factual data, that makes it so much easier. Now, before we go into the last 2 tips, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Again, if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to give us a follow. Number 2, definitely number 2, 2 plus 2, 4. So, tip number 4, seek out individuals who understand and embrace change. If you've got friends, family members, trusted people in your life that actually are good at embracing change, have had a lot of change in their life, can you actually go and seek counsel from them? How have you dealt with this? How would you have dealt with that change better? Is there any tips and advice? So let's say it's in business, you're going to the next position. If you know someone else that's in that position, how did you make that transition from where I'm at to where I'm going? If you're going on YouTube and you want to do some videos, can you speak to somebody that's already done them? What tips and advice could you give me? Actually seek out people that have embraced that change, which is what I do. That's why mentorship groups are so powerful. Again, I'm in 2 mentorship groups. And you've got the what we call masterminds, which are surrounded by people that are in a very similar position to you, and you can bounce ideas off people because they're going through the same stuff as you. They can give you advice. They're not in it as you are. Just seek some people out. Find people that actually are like-minded, that are positive, that will encourage your growth and inspire you. Yeah, do you know what? It's quite rough at the start, but once you've gone through that, wow, it's absolutely incredible. They're painting that picture for you. Yeah, it might be tough in the beginning, but actually, once you go through that, once you keep powering through, I promise you get so much better. It gets that inspiration from you. But the key one here is with this whole thing, you aren't alone on this journey. And it can feel quite lonely and isolating when you feel like you're going through this change by yourself. And maybe you are. Maybe it is something very, very personal to you, and the change is personal to you. And that's where that resistance comes from, that fear, that self-doubt, that procrastination. But it doesn't have to be just you. There are people that have gone through it as well. There'll be support groups. There'll be numbers that you can call. There'll be Facebook groups. There'll be Instagram things. There'll be so much stuff out there where you can surround yourself with like-minded people who have gone through this stuff as well. My final point, tip number 5, reflect and learn from the challenges. This kind of ties in nicely to point number 1, but it's a little bit of a different one because this reflection, the journaling stuff, it doesn't even have to be journaling. It allows us to gain insight into our reactions, behaviors, and thought process during the challenging times, as we spoke about. But some questions that you can actually ask yourself to take this to a next level is, question 1, these are the ones I've asked myself personally. What emotions did I experience during this challenge? So during this challenge, right now, what emotions did I experience? So sometimes we can't actually name the emotions. So what colour was I during this challenge? What shape was I? And you could be like, as a blue squiggly line. Well, why was I a blue squiggly line? And then you start to unpack that a little bit. All you're doing is starting to notice your thought process. You start to notice your patterns. You start to notice how you feel around certain things. And the second question to ask yourself, how did I approach the problem solving? How did I actually approach any of these problems? Did I see the problems as things that were unsolvable? Or did I actually, there's a problem, how am I going to solve this? So you're starting to ask yourself the question, did I solve that problem optimally? Did I actually want to solve the problem, or was I resistant to it? Is that where the fear kicked in? Because there was a problem, there was an obstacle, I didn't know how to deal with it. And then how could I have dealt with it better? So again, you're reflecting that pain plus reflection equals progress. We spoke about this before. And the final one, what strengths did you discover within yourself? Because again, challenge and change and resistance brings an opportunity to grow. But ask yourself, how did this let me grow? There's a great thing you can do. Get a timeline from, again, your life, from start to where you're at right now, and just notice little things in your life where you've had some resistance and change. And actually go back and look at, well, what did those challenges, those changes actually teach you, and what did you learn from them? If you go and do that, I promise you will see a whole timeline of opportunities that you've actually taken to learn and grow by embracing the change. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next week. Take it easy.